Meet Pete. Pete doesn't know it yet, but in 3 hours and 41 minutes at 7:43 a.m., he will be rushing his pregnant wife Abby to the hospital. He won't be thinking about whether his car is charged and able to safely cover the distance from here to there, because the engineers who designed and built Pete's car already thought all about it. SAE International assembled a team of engineers from all over the world to think systematically about the charging of Pete's car. These engineers developed a series of standards that made mass production of Pete's car safe, affordable, and environmentally sustainable. But Pete won't have to think about any of that. He's probably never even heard of us. And we're fine with that. Because in helping the engineers keep Pete's car fully charged and safe, we've done our job. Sleep well, Pete.
Hey everybody, Mark Zachos here. Welcome to Supercharged. Today we have another special guest, Zahra'a Hussain. She's a systems engineer over at Aptiv here in the Detroit area, and she's going to talk about her career or her journey from her high school days through her engineering days working at a company here in Detroit, working in mobility, the future of mobility. So welcome, Zahra'a. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Mark, for having me.
Yeah, I mean, I was so excited here and hearing your background and hearing your journey, and really want to share that with our guests here in the audience and talk about, how you got from here to there and where you want to go, right, in your total engineering world, the engineering journey that you're on, and take us through some of those points and highlights, please. Your STEM journey and your SAE journey.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you. I'll first go ahead and start off with journey to STEM and how I got there. So when I was in high school, I really had a big thing about going into the medical field. I really wanted to be a neonatal surgeon, which is completely on the opposite spectrum of where I was trying to go right now. But my school started a first robotics team, and that completely changed my whole thought philosophy on how engineering kind of works, and all the disciplines that kind of come into play within that field. And I just learned so much. And from there, I kind of got into computer science, and that's what I got my degree in, and that's what I do on a day-to-day basis as well. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, that truly is. I mean, I'm an engineer. There's some engineers that are watching this show, and how do you inspire that next generation? SAE is about that, of course, and starting with STEM and in high school and even before that, that inspiration. So if you wanted to go into a medical profession, you already had that spark, I guess I would say, for science and math, and so you had that. Maybe it just kind of, you needed to move a little bit further along into the engineering side, right? Into that alternate universe of engineering, right? So you talked about FIRST Robotics. To me, that's a wonderful program, and it's also about teamwork, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's all, the whole point of the entire thing is to work together as a team and but you have different disciplines working on different things. So like, for example, like building the robots, and CADing it, you kind of had your, what we called our MEs. And then the people working on the electrical things were our EE team, making sure everything works fine. And then obviously we had our programming team, and all those people kind of came together and even business is included as well in that. But at the end of the day, we all came together and tried to figure out what issues we had, and if we can resolve them. And a lot of things kind of coincided together. And that's kind of what you do in the real world as well, in
Right. Right.
today's corporate worlds. So
Yeah. So one thing that you didn't have is a legal team. So I put a dig in there to the lawyers. You know, I'm married to a lawyer, so she'll hopefully laugh at that. But
I hope
you
not
know,
for high school level, but
so so did you start with I wanted to be an ME right out of that program, or double E, or how did you get that molding and finally get you into your program at Wayne State, right?
yeah. So one of the bigger things that kind of got me into computer science was when I was, doing basically all the functions on the robot, because I was the team lead, and I would go through every single one of them, and all the disciplines kind of interested me a lot. But one particularly was computer science, because you were kind of giving instructions for the robot to move, to pick up the ball, for example, to do all these crazy things. And little did I realize when I started going into when I got into college and did computer science, it kind of molded and shifted a bit to seeing what actual computer scientists do and what their day-to-day job is. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful field to go into. There's so much to do in it, and it's just expanding.
Did you have a lot of colleagues from your robotics program that followed the same pathway, the same direction into engineering, or did they kind of, maybe you lost track of them? I'm curious about that.
So actually, a lot of people that I know ended up doing more of like social work and more on the medical side of things, and like public health, for example. And there were a couple of us that actually went on to do engineering, which was kind of interesting because a lot of people really liked it. It was just definitely, math wasn't their strong suit. It's what they were kind of saying, and they really hated it. So that was the one downfall of it all.
Well, that's a intriguing comment. I mean, I don't think math's that hard personally. Perhaps there's people that disagree with that, but yeah, we need to work on that as a community to encourage people that, don't give up, try a little harder, but then there's alternate pathways. You don't need calculus or,
Right, yeah.
high level math to do specialty engineering. Sometimes you do, but
Right, yeah.
yeah. So you journeyed into this mobility world. Then on your next slide, you see your teams and all that. That is so cool. Of course, you knew that was where you wanted to be by the time you landed here. So tell us a little bit about that. That must be a Formula SAE team there.
Yep. So one of the biggest things coming from high school, or going from high school to college, I really still wanted to be in that competitive realm, but also still try to find something that's educational enough to give me more experience for the real world. One of them was Formula SAE, and did that change my life completely, and it moved me more into the mobility and automotive industry, and kind of grasped me into it, because in the beginning I didn't even know what like an exhaust or an intake and even what the engine did other than make the car go.
Right.
It was a huge eye-opener for me, and definitely something, it was really cool.
Yeah. So did you get to travel? Did you go MIS, or where did you get?
Oh yeah.
You guys take the car to?
We got to go to Formula West, so that was in Nebraska at the time. Now they
Mhm.
moved it over to I think California or Vegas. I think they're still trying to
Mhm.
decide.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, and we got to go to Pittsburgh to do like what they call shootouts. So they're like mini competitions.
Mhm.
Toledo was another one that they did a shootout at. UT, which was in Canada.
Mhm.
So just we got to go everywhere. So it was pretty
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, I'm sure it's fun, educational. And
Mhm.
another thing that maybe you could share with us, the other teams there, you bonded with your team, but there's the other teams and the other competitors and the other schools, right? So that's another cool and educational part of the journey too, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. We have a really strong bond with Oakland University and Lawrence Tech. We also have a bond with MSU and a couple of people at U of M, Dearborn and Ann Arbor. So all the
Mhm.
Michigan teams kind of know each other. Western's one of them as well. So all the Michigan teams kind of know each other one way or another. But definitely we have a what we call the Metro Detroit trio. So us, Lawrence Tech, and Oakland, we're like really close, and
Yeah.
anytime we need help, we always try to assist each other because if we're in that situation and we need help, then we call over our buds and we know that they'll be able to help us out. So
That's great. So I'm going to ask you a question. We didn't practice this one, but I'm going to throw one out to you. So we're all talking about the positive side, and this is great, and the teamwork, and communication, and the fun things. There were kind of disappointments too, weren't there? You never encountered any of that? Was it all a straight shot? Can you help us understand how you got over those hurdles?
so within Formula SAE, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely working together as a team, it does, have its drawbacks a little bit. There are some people that you learn that you don't want to work with, but the one thing that you end up learning while working on a team, especially this big, you learn that you still have to work with them regardless of your personal
Hmm.
personal relationship or whatever
Mhm.
with them, and you just kind of your one goal is to finish a car. So that's the one thing that everybody focuses on. Whatever personal issues they have, they can take it out outside of the team. And that was one thing that the team instilled in everyone and made sure, even though if people were sometimes annoying, there were people that sometimes didn't want to work well with one another. We still had one end goal, and that was finishing the car before the competition. So
Awesome. Well, then the next step after you're graduated or even before graduation, right?
mhm.
You got this interesting opportunity as an internship, didn't you?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. So, my sophomore year of college, I started a little early. Usually, you start an internship at like your junior year because you have a little bit more experience, but with your classes and whatnot. But I started sophomore year to get a little bit ahead of the game. So I started at ZF,
Mhm.
working as a sales co-op for GM. And that was a big eye opener for me because A, it wasn't my field. And B, I've never worked in the corporate world before, so it was a huge big jump for me. I had no idea like different things to do, different vocabulary or terms. So all that actually it kind of helped out and it taught me a lot. Um but yeah, and then I moved over to VAVE, so it's in cost savings. So try to find savings wherever you can, save money for the company. But I got to see both financing and engineering come to play in that job. So that was a really fun job. And then I got into algorithm engineering and more into what I wanted to do with working with autonomous vehicles and all that. And that was exciting. That was one of my favorite internships ever. And I wish I could have continued with them. But unfortunately, COVID came into play at that time. And so they had to let go all the interns and contractors and everybody. So yeah, and then COVID kind of hit a little bit. And then I was able to get an internship at Magna doing ultrasonics.
Hmm.
Ultrasonic sensors. So they're basically on the back of your vehicle. They're the ones that when you hear the beeping when you're backing up.
Mhm.
So, even seeing like a small sensor like that, I didn't realize how much work goes into it. And that just kind of expanded from there. And both those internships, or all of those internships, I was able to get something, a full-time job at Aptiv as a systems engineer now. And I do both like software, hardware. I basically have to know everything. And I do more of like media modules and wireless charging. So basically anything that can charge your devices in your car, that's what I do. So
right on. So
yeah.
you get a lot of satisfaction, it sounds like, out of your job. Do you have an opportunity, even in your current position? I mean, you've probably been out a couple of years, to mentor people or to work with other interns, or even reach back into, you know, a FIRST robotics or a formula program at the university. Do you have a chance to yet to do any of that?
Oh yeah, all the time. Any
Good.
spare time I have, I always try my best to always try to go back to, you know, the team, the FIRST robotics team, see how they're doing, get updates, help them out whenever need be. And then I do the same for formula. I know a lot of people, or most of them are brand new, so they're all freshmen and whatnot, so they do need help. So going back and trying to help them out whenever possible.
Yeah.
And then even then, so one thing that I didn't touch on here was I was a part of Society of Women Engineer, and
Great.
basically they do a lot of like what's called lunch and learns, and they bring in professionals from the industry to talk about what they do on their jobs and their disciplines. And so it gives a more broad spectrum of like the disciplines of engineering and whatnot, and get more women involved into the STEM field. So I try to help out in every aspect and every
Yeah,
field I can, and everything that I've joined. So you know,
that's
that way we're,
wonderful.
you know, I'm able to
Yeah.
give back a little bit of
Well,
what
you
I've
know,
learned.
make sure you tell them that math is not that scary and you can get through it, right? And the other thing is, you know, besides the technical side, you gotta go work with the team, and sometimes there's, like you said, there's maybe not be somebody that you get along with personally, but you got to finish what you started, and you got to get that work done, right?
Right.
Work together.
Yeah.
So that's a lesson I guess we can play back. But what about the future? So I'd like to hear about the future from your side. What's your view? You know, I ask guests on the program sometimes about, hey, you're a technical expert, you've been around 30, 40 years. What do you see about the future? I'm going to ask you that same question as a young engineer coming into the world, seeing how mobility is so rapidly changing, and sustainability. Share with us your ideas and thoughts here, please.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously we're now moving into the EV market. That's a huge boom going on right now. And that's definitely something that we're starting to work on even at Aptiv, and trying to move more into, you know, more sustainable vehicles, cleaner environment type of thing. But I definitely think I would say like 5 years time from now, right now, I would say a lot of people don't trust EVs just because there's no infrastructure for it. Like there's not a lot of like chargers for them. The charging rate for them is like very slow. So, so, you know, not a lot of people trust them, but I feel like 5 years time from now, the infrastructure will be there. The EV market, there'll be a lot more of EVs out there. And I feel like people will start being able to trust them. The technology will improve a little bit more. But I also feel like with the EV market trend going up, I also believe autonomous vehicles are going to be something that's going to be embedded within the EVs, because they kind of come hand in hand a bit. And I feel like 10 years down the line, I feel like a lot of, or most of the cars will be at around like a level 2+ or a level 3 autonomous vehicle driving, similar to how kind of Tesla is at this point, because a lot of people really like them. So I feel like more of the OEMs are going to try to go towards that direction as well, to try to pique more of everyone's interest.
So I find that an intriguing comment, and you mentioned the SAE levels of autonomy here, level 2, level 3. levels of autonomous driving. Nobody, well, very few people say level 5 is within reach, but
Right,
maybe
yeah.
it is. Yeah, I don't know.
It'll get there eventually. I just feel like every vehicle will have to be at like an autonomous vehicle, and they will have to communicate with one another. And then I guess that just depends on how people want to trust
Right.
each car communicating with one another, because then I guess maybe that goes to the government level and people don't feel comfortable with that. So
the cars will all have to play together as a team, right?
right. Yeah.
And right, there can't be too many outliers there, but we'll work it together. So it's been a fantastic opportunity to talk with you, Zahra'a, about your journey, and I think it's cool to have engineers such as yourself ready to take us forward into that future mobility universe, wherever it may be. And I really want to thank you for joining us and sharing that information.
Thank you for having me.
For the rest of the viewers here, we'll show you information on the screen of the SAE Detroit section, how you can contact with us, how you can stay connected there in your mobility journey that you might be taking on yourself. If you need to contact me, please reach out to that website that we're going to show you there, the email address. And again, thanks very much for joining us today, and have a supercharged day, everybody.
Thank you.